Today's speaker is going to be Trish. She's one of our new agents. She's an awesome person. She's very positive, and I want her to share her story with us, or share any message that she could possibly give us in order for you guys to, make yourselves a little bit better, or to take something away from her that can help you in your lives wherever you might be struggling with. So, without any further ado, Trish, please.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. I'm Trish. Yes, I will. I grew up, I was born in Brooklyn, but I grew up in Cranford, so I lived my entire life in this area, which has been, it's great because there's so many different people that we all know, and even people in the office were just talking about that this morning in the local area. But a little bit about my story. I have one brother, one sister. So I had a really nice childhood. I really did. I have an older sister. She's 3 years older than me, and a brother who's 2 years older than me. And we really, growing up in Cranford was it was awesome. I have such great memories of growing up in Cranford. Where things really changed for me, where my story I think really started, is during high school. I was kind of cruising along, having a great time with all my friends. And I had a boyfriend throughout high school. And I had dated him from freshman year, and he was a little bit older than me. And I ended up getting pregnant in high school. And if anybody is, has it back then, because I graduated in 1987, so back then, and I think even now, it's a difficult thing for a teenage girl to have to go through. And especially junior year of high school, it certainly wasn't in my plans. And I was so afraid. Fear took over, and I hid my pregnancy, and I didn't tell anybody because it was so shameful, and I was so scared, or at least that's how I perceived it back then. I see it's so totally different now, and it's kind of interesting that I'm telling this story right after Mother's Day, because I just spent the day with my daughter, who I'm telling the story about now, and we both were crying when we were talking about it yesterday, because it's like something that's part of both of us, growing up. So I hid the pregnancy, and it wasn't until the day that I went into labor that that my parents found out, and it was extremely traumatic for everybody because it was so shocking. But it was the best gift in the whole world. Having my daughter really made me the person that I am, because I had to go through a lot, coming back to school. I had her in May, so it's also great. Her birthday's on Friday, and Ashley's going to be 31 on Friday, so now we can all figure out my age. Exactly. Thank you, Harry. You already spoke, but I wouldn't pick you for that. So I had Ashley, and having to go back to school. So I didn't go back to school till my senior year, and I did go back to high school because there were so many different choices that I could have made. And I'm like, no, as hard as this is, I'm going back. And I went back to high school, and I remember the first day I saw everybody whispering, and I remember going into the bathroom and hearing girls talk about me. And at that point, I realized I can't ever listen to that talk around me, that I have to keep positive in my own head. And that's really helped me so much throughout my life, because I could never hear, wow, things are going to be so tough for her. She's never going to have this. She's never going to have that. Those nevers were not possible. And they're still not possible today. And that's what gives me strength, like I said, in business today, because when people say those nevers, not only was it the nevers, it wasn't the nevers. It changed me and made me so driven, because I had this little girl. It was just me and Ashley. Her father left me. Her father left me in the hospital. So, at that point, I had been with him all through high school. It was the most difficult thing for me, knowing that I was going to be by myself, but I wasn't. I was never alone, because I always had, it makes me want to cry, because I always had Ashley. And the two of us are like so close. We have a bond that's absolutely amazing. But from that point on, I finished my high school. And then I took some classes at college, and I actually worked for a mortgage company during my senior year. So I got a little experience in the mortgage business. And then from that point on, I got a job at a hotel at Hilton Short Hills. I don't know if anybody's familiar with that, but back then and still today, it's an amazing property. It was a 5-diamond property, and I'm not sure of the rating today, but it's a very well-known property. And I was the receptionist for the general manager there. And I remember as soon as I got there in customer service and dealing with people, I loved it. I absolutely loved it. And I worked for a general manager that at a 5-diamond property, everything was top notch. So service level, I learned so much about how important it is to treat your customers well, and how important it is to engage with your customers, and just as his receptionist, I started there, and from that point on, I knew that that's where I wanted to be. I got to train in the different departments, but I love sales. I absolutely love sales, and those little voices in my head were, I remember seeing somebody coming in from corporate when I was the receptionist saying, I want to, they were there to see the general manager, and I'm like, oh my God, I would love to work for corporate one day. For me, that was and I always had it as my vision, and that's where I knew I was going to be. I visioned it, and I knew kind of like Lou, like you referenced, it didn't, when you spoke, it was a plan. It didn't happen overnight, and I knew it was something that I was going to have to work really hard for, and especially having a little baby at home, I did have some limitations because I had to say no to some, there were some opportunities throughout my career that I could have moved, but I knew I also wanted to always keep, because life's about balance. I wanted to be there for my daughter too, and I had to do what was right for her. So moving, and Ashley, I ended up getting married actually to a wonderful man who was a big part. We raised Ashley together. Ashley was only like a year and a half at the time, and he stepped right into the role and was an amazing father to my daughter, and still is to this day. So I worked and had my vision of what I wanted to do, and I stayed with Hilton I just left Hilton a year ago and joined real estate, but I stayed with Hilton and worked my way up to corporate. I worked on numerous properties in New Jersey and got the experience that I needed. I remember at one point I thought I was entitled to be promoted, and I remember I did this, this, and this. Why am I not getting promoted? And I remember, someone sat me down. I've had a lot of teachers along the way. I've had so many amazing teachers along the way, and she sat me down and she said to me, Trish, you need to. She was pretty much saying I needed more world experience at this point. It's wonderful how aggressive you are and how you want so much for yourself, and I admire that, but I needed to grow up a little bit is kind of what she was saying to me, because I was very young. I started my career with Hilton at 18 years old, and I wanted everything, and I wanted it then. So it really taught me, and I think that God had a plan all along, that I had to do the steps that I needed to do to grow into that role. So I worked at numerous properties in New Jersey and always staying in the area, like I said, because of Ashley. And I had my son Ryan along the way. So we had Ryan, my kids are 10 years apart, so I ended up getting married, and we had Ryan, and Ryan is, an amazing child that is going to play a part later in my story of some things that we went through. So I really was living a great life, amazing life, and I ended up leaving Hilton for a little while to raise my daughter and my son. My daughter, Ryan was a baby, so after we had Ryan, I took some time off. But unfortunately, my ex-husband and we ended up going through a divorce when Ryan was only 2 years old. So we were together 13 years. But, we started life young. We raised a child. He's an amazing father, but we got married really young. We were together, like I said, from 17, 18 years old on. So we ended up separating ways, but we never ever lost the vision of taking care of our children together. We co-parented all the way through together and put our differences aside and made sure that the most important thing was our children. So along the way with my career, I ended up going back to Hilton. Actually, they called me and they heard you're going to be coming back to work. Would you come back? And I said, absolutely. So I went back with Hilton. And then at the end of my career, not the end of my career, before I went to the position that I spoke that I dreamed of being in, I ended up being assistant director in New York. So that was, what an experience. All along the way, everything has shaped me for who I am today. The sales experience I received there, and I had a lot of revenue management experience coming up with rates for the hotels, and I handled the pharmaceutical market, which was a very particular market with a lot of regulations. So there was a lot that I had to learn. I did a lot of sales training throughout too. So then I got promoted to that corporate position, but it was the position that everybody wanted, but nobody would leave, because once you got that position, nobody ever leaves. So they had an opportunity for me to go on and develop new accounts. So my job was to go there, and the only thing that I was able to do is, if you want an account base, you've got to come in here and develop it. So I did that, and I ended up developing, and it was the pharmaceutical market. Not luckily, because it was a lot of hard work. It was a lot of determination, a lot of hard work. I did a lot of prospecting and developed a market. There was 3 of us that got hired, and I was the only one who stayed on board, because it was a very, like you were referencing this morning, it was the kind of thing where I couldn't give up. Like there was a lot of no's, but then there was that one yes, and I had to stay through, and it was all about staying the course, doing a lot of follow-up work. There was a lot involved in getting to where I wanted to be. And I knew that I wanted that position, so I had to develop my account to get there. So I ended up having a really nice account base, and then they gave me some other corporate accounts that were already developed, once I proved myself with the other accounts. And there were so many times, kind of like you referenced this morning, it was so scary and so uncomfortable for me, because I really had to grow into that position. That position, I felt like, as much as I wanted, oh my God, do I really belong in this position? I had to speak in front of a couple hundred people. I had to do a lot of things that were, uncomfortable for me. And I remember hearing the same thing from a lot of my leaders, like Lou. Trish, when you're uncomfortable, you're growing. So just hang in there, because that's growth, and that's what you need to do to get there. So that's exactly what I did. I hung in there, and speaking in front of people was my biggest fear, and I just hung in there. And before you knew it, I started getting that confidence, because you know what? The more you start doing something, the more you realize, wait a minute, I'm just as good as anybody else. There's no reason, if I don't work hard, I can't do this like everybody else can. And the more you get that confidence and you get comfortable, the more comfortable it is to speak on it. So life was going along, and I was traveling a lot. So that was kind of hard for me with my children, being a single mom. I was traveling a lot. And then my son got sick. So I was kind of caught up in my career and caught up in my life, and kind of lost focus of what was important, And, the only thing important, because we talk about, for me, balance is a big deal. I can go way off balance in any direction if I don't watch myself. I was out on the road a lot, and then my son got sick, and I realized that I needed to, it was the scariest thing ever. It was in the middle of the night one night, and Ryan had a bacterial blood infection. His fever had gone up. We went to the hospital, and they said, we don't know if he's going to make it. And it was the scariest moment of my life. It was kind of like you're frozen, and you have to be strong for that. I had to be strong for my son. But my ex-husband and I, we had gone to the hospital together, because like I said, we really parented together. We were at the hospital, and he had been sick, my son, the year prior with mono. So we were back and forth at doctors a lot, but this was serious. So he was transferred to Morristown Memorial in intensive care. And he spent a week in the hospital. And talk about being inspired. I talk about my story and how tough things were, about having not worry about outside influence. I see my son lying there, and he showed such strength and such peace that I admired. He was to this day, he's the most amazing. Both of my children are the most amazing kids ever. I'm so close with them, and I have so much love for them. So we got through that. Ryan, they found, because you have to find the right antibiotic, and that was what it was all about. And they found the right antibiotic for Ryan. He got better. So then I went back to my life, traveled all over the place, and again, kind of lost focus, because it was just all about, I think I got a little too caught up in me, a little too caught up in the next best thing and everything else. And, I really needed to, I don't know what word I wanted to, I need to make some changes in my life, let's put it that way. But we were on vacation. Ryan, his health had gotten better. It was a little tough for a year. His health got better, and then he decided to go to Colorado University because my son's really into hiking, snowboarding, like Colorado is where my son belongs. He absolutely loves it there. So he decided to go there. Well, right before he was to leave, Ryan got sick again. So it was July, we were on vacation, and Ryan got really sick in the middle of the night, and we brought him to the hospital, and it ended up he had pancreatitis, and this came from a child that did all the right things. He does CrossFit, at the time he wasn't doing CrossFit, but he was working out all the time, eats healthy, does shakes, doesn't drink, is the picture of what you should be for health. That was my son, where then he just was he was absolutely amazing. So he gets really sick, and my ex-husband flies out, and we take care of Ryan in the hospital for the week in Myrtle Beach. And from that point on, from July till December, we thought Ryan was better and he went to college. They had taken his gallbladder out and they thought that was going to fix it. But then Ryan got sick again and went off to college, so we had to deal with, he was in and out of different hospitals. But the reason that I shared this part of the story is it's such a big part of my life, because it made me take a look at really the life I was living. Yes, I had the corporate job and I was making great money and I was living that dream, but I wasn't present. I was too caught up in everything but where I belong, and that's with my family. I mean, my family, my children are who inspired me to be who I am, and then I was so caught up in everything else, And so I really had to take a look and say, you know what? I saw the strength in my son and my daughter. I've seen, they both have been so strong. But I saw the strength in Ryan when he was sick, that he was so at peace. He's like, Mom, I'm going to accept whatever it is going to happen to me. Because he was on a feeding tube and he was really sick at one point, and we didn't know what was wrong. They couldn't fix his pancreas, and you need your pancreas. So, anyway, it was at that point, and the reason that I share this is because it was at that point that I knew I had to make some changes. And I had to make some changes in a lot of areas of my life. I had to really take a look at, the lifestyle I was living and make some changes at that point. And one of them being, the important one for us right here, is being my career. I never ever thought I would leave my job. It was not the kind of job you leave, and especially I was doing well. But what was more important was my family. So I took a step back, made some changes in my life, and my career was one of them. And then that's when I decided, I'd always been interested in real estate. I always found, there's so many parallels to the real estate world with what I was doing. I had the sales experience, I had the revenue management experience. This was natural for me to come into real estate. And the only problem is when I joined, I was so used to having such a family, and it's not a problem, but I was so used to having such a family around me that I felt very alone in real estate. I felt really alone. So I was getting the deals, things were happening, but I wasn't happy. And I'm like, I'll never have what I had before, my family that I worked with for over 20 years. And it wasn't until Harry, I saw Harry around the holidays, and he had the same struggles that I did. We talked about the struggles that we had, and that, I wanted to be happy too. I wanted that balance, and I wanted to work with people that all felt the same way. Our families are important to us. I'm not that other people don't feel that way, but we're very everybody's very inspiring here, and you get just good feeling when you walk through the door. Everybody cares about each other. So Harry had talked to me about it, but then I decided to wait a couple months, and then we ran into each other again, and the timing was perfect, because I'd gone through something else another health issue with someone else that I had to take a little step back. So it was good timing for me. I decided that was the time where I would make a change. And I changed over, coming to Culture Estate, and it's been the best decision I could have ever made. It's kind of that gut feeling when you know that something's right. It's not a gut feeling. It's God. To me, it's God. It was, the intuition was there. I knew this is where I belonged, and from the day that I walked in, my decision has been. It's been amazing here. I feel welcome, and it's just a great place to be. But I'm grateful today. I'm extremely grateful, and I want to thank you all for listening to my story today.
Thank you, Trish. questions for Trish. I'm sure there's a few of you who might be intrigued by some of the things she spoke about today.
How's your son doing now?
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Oh yes, that is the most important. They found out with Ryan with his pancreas that they were able to fix it. They put it was something with his duct, so they were able to fix the pancreas. He's doing amazing. He's living his dream. He's out in Colorado at Boulder. He's at Colorado University in Boulder, and he couldn't be happier. And that's all I want for my children. Like, he is so happy where he is. So I get the opportunity to go visit him. He comes home. We talk on the phone every single day. He's the most inspiring kid ever because of what he's gone through. Now he wants to be a teacher. He was originally going to be an engineer, but he's a CrossFit instructor and wants to be a teacher, and also physical fitness is very important to him. So he wants both areas of life. And he saw how much I traveled and his father traveled, and he wants life balance. Like, he's so much wiser than his years because he learned right off the bat how important it was to have life balance and to live your purpose. Because for him, he almost died twice on us, and he knows the importance of like living for today and family and everything else. So God, I look at him and I'm amazed. I wish I knew then. I wish I was as smart as Ryan and Ashley, like at their age. They're amazing. Thank you. I can go on and on about my kids. Oh, and I'm a grandmother. I can't even believe I didn't bring that up because that's been the most amazing. I do have to bring that up. That would be awful, especially because I'm with him every day. My daughter now, my daughter has my grandson Cole, and I have a wonderful son-in-law, and they live a mile from me, so I walk over their house just about every morning, and hang out with my grandson. And he's like, Mimi, going for another walk today? He's like, are we going to sell some houses together today? So he is a big part of my story because, unlike with my children, me traveling all the time, I'm actually able to like spend more time with my grandson than I did my own children. So it's the biggest gift of all.
So I actually have a comment, or maybe you could turn into a question for you, Trish. You mentioned that when your son was sick, obviously he didn't know what the outcome was going to be, but now that he's already been given the opportunity to be healthy and live his life, do you feel his attitude has changed since he feels now that you never promised tomorrow, and he's trying to accomplish a lot with his time? Because that's how I feel that some people act. They feel like, oh, I'm still young, I could do that when I'm older, or I could do it whenever. There's no sense of urgency ever, but when you're faced with death twice in your life at that age, do you feel that that's changed something in him?
Absolutely. And if you have a conversation with Ryan, in fact, I was telling Danny this, if you have a conversation with Ryan, he knows it, and he taught me that, like watching him, he taught me that, but that's why he switched from being engineering to he wants to give back. He wants to be a teacher because he knows how good he is with kids, like teenagers, and he knows the struggles he went through, and he wants to be able to give back. So it changed what he wanted to do with his life, and it also made him realize the importance of living for today. And yes, he's amazing, and he gets it.
Yeah, that's really important. A lot of people don't realize that life is a gift.
It absolutely
is. If you
is.
want to accomplish something, just get started today. Don't put it on the back burner because you never know. It might never happen.
Absolutely.
Anyone else?
Harry?
Yeah, I had no idea that you have been through those things that you went through. And when you spoke about Ryan, it kind of reminded me of myself when I was in the hospital. But it was good for me to hear that from a mother's perspective to make me, I can't even imagine how my mom and dad felt, when I was in the hospital sick, and, hearing you, just kind of gave me a little perspective on that, to watch your child, be sick, but fight and stay positive. And I think that's what we have to do in life in general, always stay positive, fight for what you believe in, follow your heart, walk through the fear, and trust the process. And when we met, we had a mutual friend, our friend Bill, and so I seen Trish and I told her that I was unhappy where I was. I was actually leaving that agency when we first met, and I told you I was going with my friend. And then some time had passed, and I seen Trish again. I asked her how she was doing, and at the agency she was at, it was written all over your face you were unhappy. And I'm on the other side. I'm sure I was very positive.
Absolutely.
And I was probably,
I saw a huge change in you. I'm like, I want that.
I was probably glowing.
You are.
So, because I was really, really happy. I came from a place where, people weren't trying to help you. There was a lot of negative talk behind your back. You really didn't want to come into the office, rather just work from home today, which is not good. You want to be around the environment. You want to be around people that are motivated and positive and talking it, living it, breathing it. You want to be around that. And Trish, I know she saw that coming off me, and that law of attraction. I didn't even really have to sell you it. I just told you my experience, and it sold itself. And then you came in here, and then you experienced it yourself. So you're right where you're supposed to be, and I have no doubt in my mind you're going to crush real estate. You're going to help a lot of people out. You're going to be the person that you always wanted to be for your family. I mean, you already are. It's just the money coming in, and that's going to start piling in for you. And more than anything, I'm just grateful to be for you to be a friend to me.
Thank you.
A coworker.
Thanks, Harry. I feel the same way.
I actually wanted to ask you. So you're just as beautiful as you are intelligent, and your story is very inspiring. And I just wanted to ask you, what advice would you give to women that are in a similar position that you're in? For example, my sister is a single mother who gave up her dirty past to provide a better future for her child. To make it fast, she's doing insurance. She's doing health insurance. So she's like an agent. And I just want to ask, what advice would you give, to single mothers out there that are trying to, bring a better future for their kids?
No, I think that's great, because I've always wanted to. I would love the opportunity. In fact, it's something that I think of often, of talking to teen moms, because I know what it's like to be there. I think the most important thing is don't listen to the negative talk around you. Know that you have it in you. It's there. You just have to work hard and follow your dream, whatever that dream is. If you can work hard, and when I used to look in my daughter's eyes and know that I wanted more for her, and why not me, and I feel that way even with us, with real estate. Why not me? If I work hard, do the next right thing, and that's the advice that I would give to her. Work hard, do the next right thing. And like you said, I had a similar experience of not living the right way, making sure you're living the right way, do the next right thing, and good things will come, and if she ever wants to talk to me, you're more than welcome to give her my number. I would love to talk to her.
Thank you.
I have a question, Trish.
Sure.
So you started out with talk about corporate drive for more, and then priorities changed, and now you're in something with the flexibility as well as the earning potential. What do you do to make sure that the balance is achieved and more so maintained? That's a great question, because it's something that I have to work on. I have to keep myself in check every day. I know the important things for me, and I have to keep my family, God, and work. Work is very important to me, and success is still. I'm a very driven person, so it's very important to me. But I just have to keep myself in check every day, is the way that I'll put it. If I have to make just as much, make time for my working out now, because fitness is also part of it, because that got lost along the way too, and I love working out. So I make time for fitness in the morning. I make time for prayer. I make time. So I make sure that I go visit my grandson. I make sure that I make time for everything. And then it all works out, good thing. I had a great week last week, and I had a really good, successful business week last week and family week. I was there for my mother when she needed me to go to the doctor.
And then I was present to watch my grandson when they need it. And then I also had some great deals go on last week business-wise. So it's just always keeping it in balance. And it's not something that I'm ever perfect at. There's some days that I'm like, and I'll know it. I know when I'm off because all of a sudden, like I'm you know, I can feel the energy not being as positive, and I have to take a step back and I have to say, okay, Trish, refocus. So I think balance is something we always work towards. Or I do.
Yeah, I have a question for you guys. Trish, I noticed that one thing about you is that you light up the room. Your personality is very, very light, and you're not. You don't leave the room and leave a bad energy behind. So I feel that when you're out there trying to get business, that your personality and your outlook and the way that you handle things has a big deal with you being successful early on in your career. Do you feel that that's something that you've worked towards, or is that something that was already in you? Because I know for some people it's hard to always keep a positive mentality, a positive outlook. I was guilty of that at one point in my life where I was just like pessimist. I thought the world was ending and things were terrible.
Mm-hmm.
But then once I tuned those things out and I stopped listening to the negativity and I just said, I'm going to always see a silver lining in everything. I'm going to be a positive person. It took me a while. I had to train my brain. I had to write it down. I had to be thankful for things I already had as opposed to always thinking about things that could go wrong or things that I didn't have or things that were bothering me. Is that something that you were born with, or is that something you trained with?
You know, I definitely, it didn't come easy at first for me either. I mean, I'm trying to think, there were times in my life that the negative, you know, I guess right from the start when I had Ashley, the negative talk around me, I knew I had a spirit inside me, and but it was a struggle because I had a lot of negativity around me, or a lot of people saying I couldn't. Kind of like they say in real estate, oh, first year you can't. Don't ever listen to the you can't. There's no why not you, you know? And so yes, I work for it. But it also comes natural. I mean, I think it's part of my personality, but it's that negative self-talk comes in every one of our heads, you know? Like it's just a matter of training, like you said, like training not to let the negative self-talk come in, because it's not, you know, if we do that, I mean, like last week, I started my week with losing a deal, and then I ended up with, you know, winning deal. So if I would have said after the first deal on the beginning of the week, forget it, the whole week's ruined, I would have never seen what a great week I was meant to have, you know? So it's something I've worked towards my whole life, but it also, it's part of my personality. Like I love people, and I love being, I think the most important thing is being honest, being true to who you are, and because people want to work with genuine people, you know?
I believe that. Anyone else?
I think it's time to ask her who do you have in mind for next week as a speaker?
Who do I have in mind? The person I have in mind, I'm going to let her be. I'm going to pick John because she's
Awesome, that was really good. John, you're on the hot
I just want to see her sweat a little bit. Yeah.
Great story.
Thank you.
Great story.
Trish, thank you for that. That was awesome.
Thank you.
I love you.
I love you too. I'm so looking forward to working together.
That was an awesome presentation by Trish.
Thank you. Thanks, guys.
Guys, if anyone can take anything away from her, I know I took something away, everyone might be different, but the lesson I learned from Trish today was you shouldn't wait till you're dying to start living, because it seems like a lot of us really just put everything on the back burner and doubt ourselves and don't look at what we could really accomplish. But then when we're told that we only have X amount of time left, then that's when we really start worrying about what we want to achieve. There's a saying that says that the youth is wasted on the young. And you don't really realize the reality of that until it's too late to do something about it. So everyone in this room is still young enough to make a huge impact on the world, on themselves, and their family. So let's not hesitate until it's too late. So with that being said, we'll take a quick break, and then we'll have Tom.
Take that.
Yeah, take a 5, and then we'll have Tom.
Bro, you're looking real jacked.
Bro, that's all Danny's working.
Yeah,
Yes,
that's
Never got a real